So as I sit here today, I feel okay. I felt better 8 days ago about Donald Trump's chances than I do today. I just think it's been a topsy-turvy, tumultuous week where maybe there's been more attention on him, the person, versus him, the policies. But, I still feel pretty good about things. I can't sit here with a tremendous amount of confidence. Frankly, nobody on either side should be sitting there with a tremendous amount of confidence. There's so much unknown going into tomorrow that you just can't predict, and you can't use an 800-person poll to get an answer on. Do young men really show up for Donald Trump en masse? That's a low propensity voter. Are senior citizens really trending towards the Democratic Party like some polling would suggest? That really hasn't been the case in a very long time. Where are suburban voters at? How much does, the abortion issue really move people now that it's really being handled at the statewide level? All these things that you really just can't answer with a lot of confidence. Now, anecdotally, I can sit here and I can tell you, I know plenty of people that voted for Joe Biden 4 years ago who are now voting for Donald Trump. I don't really know anybody who voted for Donald Trump 4 years ago who's now voting for Kamala Harris. Now, that doesn't mean the person's not out there. That's just my anecdotal observation, right? So I'm going to give you this because I know there's a lot of angst across the political aisle right now. I will give you situations where if your preferred candidate loses, I'll give you something you can take solace in. And I'll start with Kamala Harris. If Kamala Harris loses and you're sitting right there this morning, you're getting in the car, you're going to work, you're working from the home office, and you're streaming us on your Google or your Alexa, the good news for you is this. Donald Trump enters as a lame duck. Lame duck presidents always tend to get less done. Donald Trump will really have probably 12 to 15 months to get any major legislation done, if he can get anything done at all. And then you're going to enter a 2026 midterm that is going to be ripe for the picking. The 2026 Senate map is very favorable to the Democratic Party. They can pick up and potentially gain control of the U.S. Senate in 2026 if they lose it here in the next couple of days, which they are expected to. And you could have a huge blowback in 2026, which usually happens when the party is in power, when one party has all the political power in Washington, D.C. And then also, you don't have to pretend anymore like Kamala Harris is somehow a strong candidate and a competent person and someone who is capable of being president of the United States. Because deep down, you know she's not. And I know that you know that because, well, if you were a Democratic primary voter 4 years ago, no one wanted her. Nobody. Her polling was so bad, she didn't make it to the Iowa caucuses, even though her home state of California was like a week later. So the fake enthusiasm for Kamala Harris, you can actually let it fall by the wayside. It's like when your sibling has a new boyfriend or girlfriend and you can't stand them, but you pretend to like them for the sake of your sibling. That's what you're dealing with Kamala Harris. And a large part of is just driven by Donald Trump, and you can't stand Donald Trump, and that's your prerogative. But don't tell me that you're actually enthusiastic about Kamala Harris, because you know you're not, and I know you're not. And you can fake it for a long time, and you can keep telling yourself every night before you go to sleep that you really think she's this strong candidate who's definitely ready to be president of the United States. But if I put you under a lie detector test, I think you'd fail miserably. So if she does lose, it's like when your sibling dumps that boyfriend or girlfriend that you can't stand, you breathe a sigh of relief. And even though your sibling's upset, they're unhappy, they got dumped, they're beside themselves, deep down you can say to yourself, thank goodness. Now you can actually go into the next couple of years, find a bench for your party, and try to find, some decent candidates. And they might be out there. We just don't know where. On the other side, with Donald Trump, if Donald Trump does end up losing tomorrow, Republicans can take solace in the following. They are likely to maintain the House. The map is favorable for that. And they have a great opportunity to win the U.S. Senate. And that means the worst instincts of Kamala Harris's progressive policies will go absolutely nowhere. Kamala Harris will talk a big game and will do nothing. And if she continues some of the executive actions of Joe Biden, like policies on the border, well, you will have a Republican U.S. Senate that will be able to do more against it, combined with a Republican House. And then you will set yourself up, if she's as bad as Biden, for a very good midterm in 2026, and then a potentially great situation 4 years later in 2028. Now, I know that feels like a lifetime away, but there is solace to be taken on both sides. If Kamala Harris does end up winning and you have full control of the U.S. Senate, and you should at least pick up seats in West Virginia and Montana. If not, you look at some of the others, Arizona, Michigan, Pennsylvania, some of the other key ones. You set yourself up to be in a great spot come 2026 when you'll have 2 Georgia U.S. Senate seats available to take. You could flip more Senate seats in 2026, and then you could really be cooking come 2028. When hopefully Donald Trump's policies, now Trump's not going to run again in 28, he's basically said as much, but you'll hopefully have the best of Donald Trump and the policies, and you'll be able to continue to build the future and the bench of the Republican Party around people like J.D. Vance, Ron DeSantis. If you want to put Missouri U.S. Senator Josh Hawley on that list, you can do that as well. There will be a massive runway for success while also being able to hamstring Kamala Harris's worst instincts at basically every turn. So I'm not making the case here saying that you should be, happy if your side loses, but there are scenarios here where when you look at it, if your preferred side does lose, it doesn't mean the whole thing's going to fall apart. If you are a person of faith, you're going to wake up Wednesday and you're going to say, you know what? Or you should say, hopefully, to a large extent, your faith is not in the political leadership in this country anyway. It should be much bigger than that. No matter how you feel about tomorrow's election, no matter who your preferred candidate is in tomorrow's election, your faith in humanity, your faith in America really should not change if you believe in something larger than our political system, which frankly, I think we all should. And that's where, as much as I spent the weekend thinking about how I didn't feel as good as I did 1 week ago, I'm also not necessarily sweating it in a big way. I have a surprising amount of peace knowing that the people I believe in have done the work on the ground that needs to be done. And now you just have to let the chips fall where they may and see how things play out come tomorrow. 913-408-7957. I do want to continue the conversation with you here on KCMO Talk Radio on a Monday. And just get the sense on what you're feeling and how you're feeling. As we roll through the 8 o'clock hour, Guy Benson will be here in 20 minutes on 95.7 FM. He's your new afternoon host on KCMO Talk Radio. So make sure if you're at the office by then, you are streaming us on the iHeart, TuneIn, or KCMO Talk Radio app. Of course, I'm happy to comment on this on the text line. Pete, what about Mayor Lucas going nuts over this poll up in Iowa, advocating to go help Iowa Democrats in the closing stretch of the election? Yeah, I saw that. I commented on it yesterday on X. Mentioned the Des Moines Register that had a poll showing Kamala Harris up by 3 points, despite the fact that they way oversampled Democrats in that poll. Mayor Q put up yesterday at 5:45 in the morning saying, Iowa, I am proud to be your neighbor. What a guy. What a guy, what a guy, what a guy, isn't he? Jeez, okay.
Such a nice man.
He then writes, also on X, for us Iowa adjacent, are there any doors at Iowa Democrats need us to go knock to help make this so? I can be on I-35 in about 5 minutes, writes the mayor of Kansas City. Well, I wrote back to him and I said, please get your friends with the Kamala Harris campaign to divert all their resources the next couple of days to the state of Iowa. I would love that to happen. Everything. Forget Michigan. Forget Wisconsin. Forget Pennsylvania. All resources to try to win Iowa. Let's go, baby. Come on now. Woo! Yeah. Please spare me. Iowa is not in play. And to the person who wrote back to Mayor Q, it comes from a guy who's got the X handle, Cole Reagan's Burner. Cole Reagan's Burner, obviously a made-up account, writes to Mayor Q, there's no way you believe that poll. To which Mayor Lucas writes, I saw Patrick Mahomes beat the Bills in 13 seconds. I've seen a lot happen in my life. Yeah, okay. The Iowa Democrats do not have the playbook, and Kamala Harris certainly does not have the playbook of Andy Reid. They do not have the horses of Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and Harrison Butker, the guys who made that moment possible. Kamala Harris is no Patrick Mahomes. Tim Walz is no Travis Kelce. The guy apparently coached football and refers to it as running a mean pick six. They do not have a closer like Harrison Butker. They don't have any of that. So that is a poor analogy. I get what he was going for there, but it is a very poor analogy. And then yesterday, when I put up on social media that I wasn't feeling as good today as I did 1 week ago, the mayor wanted to tweak me back a little bit. And that's his prerogative. I can take it. I was up all day. I was up at like 4 a.m. yesterday because of this daylight saving time ending. And I got little kids. If you like the falling back of the clocks, you clearly don't have little kids. Yesterday was like
cats.
Or cats. God. Yesterday was like 2 days. I couldn't believe how long yesterday felt. But anyway, when I put up I wasn't feeling as good today as I did 1 week ago, the mayor responded to me. He writes in response on X, Pete, you can tweet it out with us. We're here for you. He writes, I'd be nervous too. Trump spending extra time in the should-win North Carolina. Enough poll noise in places like Kansas and Iowa. There was that Kansas poll that showed Trump only up 5 last week. No real advantage for Trump in any swing state except Arizona. Great Dem ground game in Pennsylvania. And then he writes to me, fun Tuesday ahead. And all I wrote back to him is, quote, let's get some calls in. Quentin in Kansas City, you're on KCMO. Quentin, what's on your mind this morning, pal? How are you? So I said, let's treat him like a caller on KCMO Talk Radio, which he's always welcome to call in. I know he joins us on Thursday mornings, but I'm happy to make him, if he wants to call in, let's go to Quentin in Midtown on the phone, right? Line 4. Let's do it. That'd be pretty funny, by the way. We started getting some of that. You'd recognize the voice, John, on the caller line and be like, why does this guy sound familiar to me?
Be more in the length of the conversation than anything.
Yeah, that's right. Now, I will say this. There's a strategy to why Donald Trump is spending time this weekend, today as well, last night in Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. The thought there is this. If he can just blow it out early in those states, that is a very good sign of things to come as you move on west, right? Like if he gets monster run-up numbers in Georgia and then in North Carolina, those are two of the key states that he needs. Really what he needs, leave all the other swing states out of it. If he gets Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, it's game over. He's the next president. That's why he's spending such a tremendous amount of time there. But according to some people that I talked to over the weekend who have been working within the Trump campaign, they also think that Wisconsin is very much in play. And if you look at the blue wall, they may be feeling better about Wisconsin than they do Pennsylvania or Michigan right now. But all he's got to do is if he locks up North Carolina and Georgia and then picks off one of the three in the blue wall, he's got it. So that's why the North Carolina-Georgia tandem is so important. Without those two, then the map becomes much more difficult for him. 913-408-7957. Guy Benson is 10 minutes away on KCMO. Make sure you're streaming at KCMOTalkRadio.com. We'll have Prasanth Reddy running in the 3rd District in Kansas at 9:05. We'll get to you, 913-408-7957. Stephen's in Kansas City first up. Go ahead, Stephen. You're on KCMO.
Oh, Pete, let your heart not be troubled. What you're not taking into your calculus is the Atlas poll, the most accurate poll in the election cycle, says in the past election cycles, the garbage comments have not yet hit the polling. The polling for Saturday from Atlas, a clean sweep, every single state.
But it's still within the margin of error.
Yeah, exactly. But the Arizona and Nevada are not within, and North Carolina are not within margin for error. This is a Ronald Reagan, Jimmy Carter replay. I'm going to put this down right now. 312 votes for Trump, 228. Right down the line, Arizona, 6.5 ahead. Nevada, 5.5 ahead. North Carolina, 3.4 ahead. Georgia, 2.5 ahead. Pennsylvania, 1.8% ahead. Michigan, 1.5% ahead. And Wisconsin, 1.0. The garbage comments are not in the polling yet. We can't get down on this. This is a landslide. I mean, are you going to be? Are you going to be doing laps around corporate woods?
No. There are no. Right now. I'm not betting any naked laps. I told you that. Those days are over. Okay. I'm going to have to send Mark to therapy for the rest of his life if I do that again. But listen, you sat here 2 years ago, as did many people. I don't know if you did specifically, but a lot of people said, "Oh, man, the red wave," and it was nothing but a certainly wasn't a wave. It was a red drip.
Well, all I know is I'm looking at the most accurate pollster, and it says a Trump clean sweep. I don't know if it's going to be 10 p.m. on election night, but I'm feeling like Houston against K-State. I'm feeling like a huge surprise is about to be unleashed after that garbage comment. A huge shock is about to like a college football upset. So
here's the thing.
In your memory bank.
If you were following K-State, they were due. Okay, they were due for that loss. They had fourth quarter comebacks all season. Tulane, Colorado got lucky against Kansas. They were due, and they're up 19-10. If K-State just runs the damn ball in the rain on the road, they probably win the game. They're throwing it with Avery Johnson up 19-10 in the fourth quarter. What are you doing? Horrible play calling down the stretch. Hopefully the Trump team has a better plan.